All right, we are here. We have arrived. We have, yes, that's right, France versus Portugal. Now, I am partial to France because I have worked with them on so many different things. Oe is an amazing streamer, amazing personality. Have seen him. He actually casted the French side of the PCS Invitational that we had casted over the summer, myself and Boulevard. So pretty awesome to see him here. Elix actually helped organize that tournament, and Flaxu was in the tournament. So love all three of them. On the side of Portugal, Portugal equally as awesome when it comes to tournaments. Manitas, Cyber Dragon, and Pepscola. Well, Manitas and Pepscola, anyways, I know have been entering a ton of tournaments since the early days of Runeterra. And Manitas actually, I think, was also in the PCS tournament, come to think of it. Cyber Dragon, I haven't seen as much. I do believe Cyber Dragon has entered some tournaments, but just haven't seen Cyber Dragon around too much in the smaller, grassroots scene. But nevertheless, they all 100% have been playing Runeterra for a while, have been here since the beginning, and have done an outstanding job to make it this far. And again, just awesome to see people that I have known for quite some time now in the Legends of Runeterra space just having so much success and making it this far. I know it means a ton to them. So pretty excited to see them here again. Casting with Boulevard and Gems by my side. Can't talk. I'm that excited for the game. What can I say? First ever TriCast. Their information will be in the description below if you want to go ahead and check them out. And again, the additional top 8 games that were not posted on YouTube, they will be over at my website. Link in the description below. There's other tournament VODs there that you won't find on YouTube as well if you want to go ahead and check it out. Pretty awesome stuff there. So, here we go, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we have France versus Portugal for the EU Masters Finals. Let's get it.
I was about to say,
doubled up on the Portugal side.
Pepsi reminds me of like my little brother. My little brother has like the opposite hairstyle to me because I'm bald, and my little brother's literally like Pepsi. He has like the curly, massive amount of hair. I'm like, how did this happen?
My little brother looks like a founding father.
Is that Joel?
Yeah. Some of the lists run Joel Hunters.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Just need a little bit more removal. I thought you were going to bring up the Laurent Chevalier that we see on the setup.
That's more. Yeah, that's the card you really need to be talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting choices here. So yeah, the Laurent Chevalier, we'll see if it's going to come in big in the next couple of turns. Already have that Bright Steel formation in the starting hand, though.
I don't know how much of an impact it is, because you might just be losing by that point in the game, right? What's really going to matter is the notifiers and the amount of barrier spells.
Yeah, and getting this early Fiora down is going to help. We've talked about this in the past. All these small little, followers that are going to come out on the side of France. We see Pool Shark, Jagged Butcher. They are going to be able to be picked off by this Fiora. So getting this off the field and dealing with it ASAP is definitely going to be crucial for France to avoid that early Fiora win con.
Yeah, I think the thing is, if it gets to that point where formation's coming down, what's going to matter is if Portugal does have a deny available for something like a Ruination or a Vengeance.
I gotta say, at the moment, Portugal's hand actually really isn't that well set up for a Fiora win condition. We only have a Sharp Sight in order to preserve the health total of this unit. And even if we use it on the Jaw Hunters, we might... I think what France is thinking is, okay, if you throw out a barrier spell, then I am going to use my copy of Glimpse Beyond, and I'm going to dodge that. But maybe you just let it go because you want to push this Fiora down to 1 HP.
Yeah, something... I know this is a little off topic here for the game, but I do want to get into this for just a quick second to kind of introduce the whole France versus Portugal thing. Do we think that France, now that we're in the finals, France is here, they've made it, is it an advantage that France has people that they already knew each other, they're on the same team in PCS, and now they're in the finals representing PCS? Does that help? Is that one of the reasons why we're seeing France in the finals here?
I mean, you could say the same thing about Portugal, right?
I guess,
they all knew each other beforehand.
Oh, wait, are all three on the same team? on
No, but
Portugal?
they all talked and played and stuff. Peps and Manitas 100% have in the past.
Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe that's why we are seeing Portugal and France both in the finals here. Really having that teamwork and camaraderie and communication to get them here.
Yeah, we had mentioned previously that in this tournament, you didn't get to pick your teammates. It was just your two countrymen who were the highest on the ladder alongside you. And that can sometimes lead to some awkward scenarios. You don't always get along with everybody on the planet just because they're in the same country as you. I sure as hell don't.
Yeah, that's America for you, right?
Yeah.
I get along with all the UK guys. I think it's just the Americans.
But yeah, these guys have repertoire already built up. They have synergy. They know what their weaknesses are, and they're not afraid to turn to their friends and say, like, hey, I'm really not sure what to do in a situation like this. Can you help me out here?
Yeah, and I do like that. I really like seeing that these are the two teams that we have in the finals. So as much as I wanted Croatia to be here, I do think it's awesome to see Portugal and these teammates that have this camaraderie in the finals. And already seeing this Laurent Chevalier in play, we'll see if it's able to get some work done here. We could buff it up with the sharp sight, see if we can get some additional value. Doesn't look like France is going to be able to do anything about that either if it does come out.
All right, we finally see it, SJW. How many times have we seen Abyssalize win games? And I said, you know what? What does it look like if we run this in something that's not deep? Let's just start throwing Abyssalize in decks. And I know it came out of a Jaw Hunters, but I also like Jaw Hunters in other decks. I feel like this is a card that doesn't get enough. It just doesn't have spaces to exist in really outside of deep. I think we had seen it in a couple of old Nab lists, but that was extremely short-lived. Really didn't last that long. Never got legs. And this is actually just going to be a full board clear for France. And these Screeching Dragons I had mentioned yesterday, something that is oftentimes scarier than the Fiora for this Go Hard deck. These things are going to consistently destroy every unit that you play round after round.
Yeah, and honestly, seeing the Gangplank in the hand of France early on here, that Screeching Dragon might come in big because it will be able to Fury up on that first attack. It will be able to go up to 5 attack, which would then trade evenly with a level 1 Gangplank. And I gotta say, I like that you brought up the Abyssali Boulevard. This version of France's TF Go Hard deck is very original. There's a lot of weird different choices that we're seeing in this deck. The Cursed Keeper, we have the Abyssali. These, we have seen these before, but all of them kind of in the same deck as choices, decision that France has made to bring these here. Definitely interesting, and I'm curious to see if it's going to prove to be an advantage here in this matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we talked about the Screeching Dragon. The next key card, obviously, we have Bright Steel plus Deny. It's going to be the next key big turn, I think. I don't think Portugal has a chance to really close this out until turn 9. I mean, they have Fiora plus Laurent plus Screeching Dragon. That's going to sort of shore up their mid game. But the key part is if they're going to... It's going to be... Actually, not even turn 9. It's going to be turn 10 because you need to have the extra mana to float for a Deny to deal with anything that tries to remove the Bright Steel. In general, though, you might potentially be dead. These Go Hard decks, especially if they get the draw engine going, can start outputting a lot of damage very quickly.
I like the Pool Shark here out of France. I think they do one of Vengeance, this Screeching Dragon. Screeching, Shen, and Bright Steel Formation, sort of the 3 biggest targets for the Vengeance, and this is probably the only opportunity for quite some time that you are going to find your opponent below Deny mana.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Like Gems mentioned, you probably might even wait till turn 10 for this Bright Steel Formation to keep the Deny. So this does seem like a pretty prime Vengeance target. Although it's going to feel bad if we do get to turn 9 and now we don't have a Vengeance for the Bright Steel Formation. So looks like we are going to opt to not do that. We're going to get this Doom Beast out instead. And, to Gems' point too about this early aggression, unfortunately, it doesn't look like France has been able to really get as much aggression as they might like. This Screeching Dragon kind of shuts some of that down as well because any of these units attacking is just going to get eaten up by it. And we might even see the Screeching Dragon come out and challenge something here. But it would, at the very least, probably be met with a Glimpse from the Beyond.
And that would prompt a single combat, and that just leaves the hand of France looking really weak, especially with a Sharp Sight still in there to block this Abyssali.
Yeah, Portugal's not in a bad spot. I mean, it could have been worse. How many Go Hards have we seen? Like, none?
0.
So this is... It's good that it's this slow for them. Because their hand does need it to be a little bit slow this match, because obviously they have another Screeching, they have the Sharp Sight. I mean, France has to start putting the pressure on, right? And they don't have the cards available to even try to attempt doing that.
Oh, wow. All right, so no Glimpse Beyond here. Just going to let that through. And I like Portugal pulling the Doom Beast there, too, recognizing that it's okay to pull the stronger one. If we do get something like a Glimpse, we're not going to feel too bad, whereas the Pool Shark would have been a better Glimpse target. So we do get the additional draw. So Betty Crocker in the hand, I should say, as a fleeting card. So I pretty positive that will get utilized this turn. We'll see. We could use it to trigger the Cursed Keeper. We could use it to go a little bit wider, just put a damage onto the Pool Shark there, utilize that 2 health. One of the reasons why Pool Shark is played.
I have a question, SJW. Do you know the name of that card?
What card? Betty
Crocker.
It's Betty Crocker.
Do you know its actual name?
No, it's Betty Crocker.
Have you forgotten at this point?
No, I think it's... Wait for it. Fortune Croaker.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because when you said Betty Crocker, I was like, he might have forgotten at this point, honestly.
At this point, I'm probably just going to start calling it Betty Crocker, too. Like, forget the Croaker. It's just a completely different card now.
And this is, so on the side of Portugal, we see the ideal Shen Fiora hand. This is the reason you run this deck. You have all of your avenues covered. You have Screeching Dragons, you have the formation, you've got protection, you've got interaction, you have your 2 champion combo set up, and I don't think that France has anywhere near enough of a good hand to try and combat this and get away with it. I think that they are just going to get steamrolled here for pretty much the remainder of the game, and because of the formation, and let me just check real quick, the attacks are going to be on odds for Portugal, so they can even slam down this Brightsteel formation on 9, and pack your bags is not an answer. It just clears out the barriers that then get reestablished when you go in for the attack.
Yeah, and this is the Abomination going in here, which would trade pretty well with everything, but we could get a Sharp Sight block on the Fiora. We could even single combat, not really going to do much, as it will actually get countered, or would just die to anything on the field. We could see both come out. We'll see what Portugal decides to do here on the block.
You can't really play formation on 9 unless your opponent goes below Vengeance mana, though. That's like the one thing I wanted to point out to Boulevard. Yes, you can play it, but you want it to survive for the attack turn.
Yeah, I agree, right? And I think that's why, we mentioned possibly having the Vengeance come out on, was it the Screeching Dragon earlier? And yeah, I agree. I think we have to save it for Brightsteel at this point. I'm not sure how many are played, though, on Portugal. It was 1 or 2.
I want to say I disagree. If your Brightsteel formation gets
Hot
Vengeance,
take,
you lose the game.
No.
Yeah, I think you do.
Really?
No, I don't think so. I think that's a pretty big tempo swing, too, right? Like, if you're playing Brightsteel, you probably have a wide board. So I kind of agree with Boulevard on this one. If you already have a wide board and you're forcing out 7 mana on the side of France to kill the Brightsteel, everything already has barrier if it's an attack turn. So you're kind of already getting the usefulness out of that Brightsteel and 7 mana plus 3 or 4 barriers. So
it's probably going to level the Shen as well.
Yeah, and then there's that, yeah. And I can't imagine we get Brightsteel down without Shen being on board, especially considering it's in hand. So,
yeah, I think what it's really going to come down to is, like, are you afraid of Ruination? Do you think that France is on that card? With the Cursed Keepers, it seems even more likely than it previously would, and I think most people are on at least one copy of that card.
Well, also with the way France has been playing, they've not played anything of value. Their hand must be super bad, right?
Pretty expensive,
so you could have a read. They have an expensive removals that you have to play around.
This right here would probably be a good Ruination on the side of France. We don't have it, so it's not going to happen, and I think Portugal might have that read after this turn kind of finishes that. All right, this would have been a pretty prime Ruination. They didn't play it, and we're just going to go ham. And I think this might be a Screeching Dragon turn 8. We have the attack token on turn 9, and I know Gems has been mentioning maybe save the deny mana as well, but I don't think you can ignore having 4 followers, one of them being Shen, turn 9 attack token, Brightsteel formation, still have 3 mana up. That seems too juicy if you have the read, your opponent doesn't have Ruination.
I guess the question is, if the Vengeance comes out before the formation turn, do you even deny it? Or do you think that is a deny bait to get a Ruination on a blowout turn?
Ooh. I mean, that's like the triple read now. Now we're getting really deep into there, right?
I mean, it's up to France if they do want to play that proactively. So far, they have shown that they are saving this for a later turn, deciding that the Screeching Dragon, not something that they needed to immediately answer, especially because they do have the Escaped Abominations in this deck. You do get to actually contest the stats of that unit, as we saw the first one. I believe only picked off a Doom Beast and an Escaped Abomination, which granted, that's still a 2-for-1, going to feel really good. But with how many +1s exist in the deck of France, they're fine to take sort of unadvantageous trades like that and just, okay, I have to trade 2 units for your 1 unit, but I have so much more draw power than you, and it doesn't matter.
So the consideration with that denial of vengeance would be dependent on how strong they think their next open attack would be.
Yeah. And I think if you vengeance like the Shen or the Screeching Dragon here, your attacks are looking not the best. Like, it's definitely not bad. It could be a lot better. As long as you've got the Screeching Dragon, though, you're feeling like you're in a good spot. But this is something we talk about with the Shen Fiora a lot as well, right? You try to get a relatively decently sized board, somewhere between 3 and 5 units. You try to lock up on a bunch of spells, protection, interaction, all that kind of stuff. If you ever lose those units through either inefficient trades or combat, or your opponent just, getting out like Vile Feast to pop your barriers and suddenly more damage is getting pushed onto you, you just fold. You have absolutely no refuel in that regard. You are still a Demacia Ionia deck. If all these units were to die here, the game would just end. And that's a tall task, and I think that is why you have to respect the Ruination so heavily and just can't let that get through. But we're getting more and more go-hards down. You're probably going to have to deny Pack Your Bags if you don't have formation burying up the field the turn that does come down.
Yeah, luckily you do have a few more turns until that's really a key card. The Chronicler obviously is going to speed this up quite a bit on the side of France. Just going to nearly guarantee it. So they've got 2 glimpses in hand. They could get really unlucky and draw their 3rd glimpse, but it should, I think, in most cases, get them their next go hard.
So I guess now the question is going to be for Portugal as we sit here on turn 9. Do you have the hard read that your opponent doesn't have Ruination and you just go balls to the wall, play this Brightsteel formation? Unfortunate part,
beyond sitting there so long.
Yeah, no, and I agree. So the other thing to consider too is that you're not really pushing damage. France has kind of this wall of blockers here. You don't have Overwhelm or anything like that. So the Brightsteel formation isn't actually doing anything to close out the game. It's just removing the field on the side of France and then just leaving you open to an even worse value Ruination. So I do like the Caretaker coming down. The problem is this wall ain't going anywhere. And at some point, Portugal's going to have to go in to start removing these units. I think we're going to get a couple attacks here on this turn, and we'll see if we ever get a Ruination out of France.
This is going to be the 3rd go hard as well, so, still a decent amount of draw in hand. The Pool Shark, the Glimpse Beyonds. There's a really good chance that we find Pack Your Bags on, sometime over the next couple of turns before the Brightsteel formation actually does get to come down.
Yeah, and plenty
or even if it...
Or go ahead, sorry.
No,
I was going to say, the one thing to note is they can level this Fuhrer up very quickly with the double single combat.
I don't think you can proactively play the single combat.
No, you can't
because of the
proactively,
Glimpse Beyond. So, and I think that France understands that there are probably a couple single combats or concerted strikes sticking in there, and that's why we haven't been playing the Glimpse Beyonds. Even here, like, you're getting a single combat for a Glimpse Beyond, but you're also, that Fiora is still only going to be at 1 out of 4 when all is said and done, because you are throwing it at its attack target.
Yeah, so it feels bad too to not be able to get these Glimpse Beyonds off on the side of France, because they do need to continue to dig for things like Ruination. Even if they find a Ruination, that deny from Portugal means on turn 10, so like Gems was saying earlier, the next attack would actually be technically turn 11. We will be able to get Brightsteel down with that deny as backup for Ruination, and now this turn we have actually cleared a good majority of the board. So I mean, France is going to have to develop even more blockers going into that turn. I don't know. This is looking a little rough for France right now. Gangplay?
And
are we seeing gangplay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate necessarily like Gangplank go hard onto the Greenglade Caretaker, but no, it is just going to be a naked go hard onto the Fiora.
Just try put more in the deck. Yeah. Increase the odds of getting Pack Your Bags. I don't mind it. I feel like that's their out. After.
Yeah. Because you have that Pool Shark as the additional draw, I do think that's kind of the play. And I think was that the 3rd one? Did we just see? Was that the 3rd go hard?
Yeah, that was the 3rd one. Yeah. So there are 6 in the deck currently.
Great. So that is a pretty good spot for France to be in, drawing 2 going into the attack token. So an open attack.
And they got it. They can just start off with this Pack Your Bags. That's going to force the deny. Now, unfortunately, they don't have the Ruination backup. But do you hold off on this Bright Steel formation because you're going to be at exactly 9 mana?
Probably, because if they have a Vengeance, you just lose, I think, right?
But you don't have another Deny in hand.
Man. Yeah, that's rough.
I do think you want this Bright Steel, like, even if the Bright Steel does die to a Vengeance, you really want it to come down on your attack turn, so you at least get the barriers out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the barriers either way, right? Because you attack and everything gets barriered.
No, I mean, if you deny this
play it this turn,
play the formation here and it gets Vengeance, you don't get the barriers on your attack turn. And even if you have the deny here for this, there is a chance that we get to salvage into another copy.
Oh, yeah. I think this is where.
Is there a line where we go sharp sight protects 1 unit, concerted protects. Concerted doesn't protect anything. No,
you literally just save the Shen here if you don't play the deny.
Yeah, it's super rough. I'm trying to think of an out here. Yeah, you're kind of forced to deny and hope to draw another one, right? That's kind of the line you're going for here. Is Portugal. I feel like it's just you get blown out if you don't deny this.
The problem is if you deny here, I think you then have to play the formation because there is the opportunity for France to fire off more draw, find another copy of Pack Your Bags, and then go for the board wipe again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have Glimpse and Salvage in hand. Not to mention this Abyssal Eye that can come down and just get that free chip damage, get the additional draw. We haven't seen it be impactful just yet, but I do like that addition to the deck. Definitely interesting choice. Portugal really thinking over this decision here. I don't think you have to. You just lose otherwise.
Yeah, you have to. Now the question is, do you feel like you go for the formation, or kind of how is Portugal planning out the rest of this turn? Because that was a really good trade for France, who does still have a little bit more feel. Who, if they can find another Pack Your Bags on this turn, gets the full board wipe if formation doesn't come down.
Yeah, well, it's really dependent on if France actually just plays anything or just hits pass, right?
I would imagine they would at least salvage.
Yeah, almost definitely. Salvage seems, I mean, it's basically a burst pass, which is nice. And then you do get the opportunity to get another Pack Your Bags, which just blows out the game at that point.
The chances of not finding Pack Your Bags or more draw seems very low for France.
Yeah.
No, Pack Your Bags tossed, and there is the second copy. So we can save a couple of units between the Spirit's Refuge and the Sharp Sight, but we even still have Vengeance mana when all is said and done.
Man, it feels really bad to deny a card like that and not have it go back to be a go hard. Like, that's just you're not really denying it. You're literally just like, all right, fingers crossed I don't have another one immediately after. And looks like we are going to save the Fiora and saving the Shen. So maybe kind of valuing this potential Fiora win condition. This might be kind of a sneaky way to win the game here. This does pose an interesting question for France. We've been talking about this Vengeance on the Bright Steel formation for so long. Does this Fiora force out the Vengeance instead of on the Bright Steel formation because of her potentially winning the game?
Your opponent doesn't have another deny, so I think you can kind of sit back and wait on this Vengeance now.
Yeah, just chump block the Bright Steel formation.
And we've also got a decent amount of damage coming through. We might even just go all out, play something like the Gangplank or the Abyssal Eye, and just go in. Our opponent is down to 10 HP. Their trades are super inefficient. They're tapped out of any sort of relevant interaction.
Okay, this just occurred to me, maybe a little late to this realization here, but Abyssal Eye in this deck, we've talked about it.
It came off Jaw Hunters.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'm going to throw this out there anyways, though. Abyssal Eye in this deck might actually not be a half bad idea, because if there's any other deck that might go deep, then it's this deck because of how much draw. Like, it's actually pretty crazy how well that synergizes with it.
So what I want to point out is, with everything that isn't Pool Shark, we have exact lethal, which means we do have to see a block out of Portugal. They are either going to lose their Shen or their Fiora here.
They're probably going to lose Shen, right? Because I feel like your win con now is
with the combat tricks in hand, you got to hang on to this Fiora.
Your win con is now Fiora. Like you're hoping to get the 4 stacks on Fiora.
Wow.
And with this Vengeance Glimpse Beyond, I mean, we know it's just not going to happen. And it looked like it was such a good position for Portugal for so long, but that is the power of Pack Your Bags.
It's just 1 card, 1 mana. You're spending 4 mana to stop 1 mana. This is what I said. It depends on if they're running Notifies, right? Because that's way less mana committal in the deck and helps quite a bit more. And this...
Did we not do math on the side of our
wait.
Portugal?
Wait, what? Did we just throw?
I mean, we.
Oh
did
wait,
just
no.
accept the
She had lifesteal because of the Spirit's Refuge that was
right,
played.
the Spirit. Okay, yeah, it's hard because they cut it off at the top of the card, so we can't see the lifesteal thing.
I got you back, Boulevard. I got you. Yeah, I agree. Couldn't see it.
I was so lost there.
Me too. I was like, wait a second, what's going on? Apparently, we're the ones throwing over here, but yeah, that's actually a pretty big deal there. Able to get that additional life and live through that turn. This is a free kill unless we play this. I imagine we'll get Glimpse Beyond. Actually,
with the two pieces of interaction, I mean, you could even glimpse to force out the Concerted and then just vengeance it, you know, if you need to.
Oh, this is so close. I mean, I guess on the side of Portugal, we still have the chance for like a top deck. I don't think you pull the Pool Shark here. I think you go with the Barrier. You use the Concerted Strike to get a kill on something if we get the Glimpse. And then if you top deck a single combat or Concerted Strike, that's your fourth kill, right? Unless they do have the Vengeance, which we see in hand. But I think that's maybe the line you have to go for Portugal.
I don't think it works out for them. I'm pretty sure France is going to test the waters with this Glimpse Beyond, see if there is that one piece of interaction, because you don't want to... I mean, you'd even feel fine firing off the Vengeance first, right? Because if they do have, say, 2 single combats, then you just Glimpse Beyond one of the single combat targets, and their hand would have to be, you know, 3 combat tricks in the range of single combats and Concerted Strikes, and they've already used 2 single combats. So they actually can't go for that because it would be a 12-mana play, and they only have 11. So I think France knows from this position there's no universe where Portugal's coming back into this one.
Yeah, and France, pretty strong showing here versus Portugal in this very first game. Again, we have best of 5, so we are nowhere near this one being over anytime soon. We'll see if Portugal is able to make a what looks like a comeback here after this seemingly first game loss, but we'll see what Portugal decides to do in response to this Glimpse Beyond here. Glimpse, such a strong card.
Double salvage.
Wow.
Salvage plus 2 more go hards. That's honestly with
and you
Portugal
can actually
you
could kill the Fiora here.
Yeah,
you can.
But I think it's risky to go for it because if there are 2 Concerted Strikes in your opponent's hand, because you need... I mean, if you're going to kill with Go Hards, you need to commit the Gangplank first.
No, you just do double Go Hard.
And leave it at a 4-1.
Yeah, then it's just a 4-1. You need
it's
the Gangplank keg.
It's a 4-2.
Yeah, it's got Barrier.
It's got Barrier on it right now. Yeah, so that Barrier animation is a little funky, too. It's
I don't know what it is when they pull... Remember when Vi did something similar? She always had the glowing fists.
Yeah, you know how annoying that was? Every single time, it would just hover in hand. Like, I want to see my cards. I think now you just
Vengeance the Fiora, and there's nothing that Portugal can do to win the game in response to this. Even if they had single combat, only puts you at 3 out of 4. Judgment. That's how you get out of this one.
I don't even know. That just delays it.
You can't just go in with the Abyssal Eye because then you're not representing lethal through either a Concerted Strike or a Sharp Sight. But Judgment.
Oh, and there's the Go Hard.
Judgment lets you die to pack your bags later.
Lets you, yeah. I like how you worded that there. So eloquently put, Boulevard.
So worth noting though, if France goes for an open attack, they don't win. Because of the Concerted Strike. And you only take 2 damage. And what are you really worried about your opponent developing here on the side of France? You know, if you get down this Gangplank and this Jaw Hunters, what is the punish? There's nothing that I can think of. Not an actual punish.
They've only got 2 cards in hand, so it's fine.
Yeah, because worst case, they summon 2 units, and you still are wider than they are, so yeah.
I mean, you know one of the cards probably isn't a unit, because it's been held in hand for so long.
Here comes Gangplank. I don't see any... Actually, we could... No, we're not deep. I was going to say, Devour, not quite deep.
Unfortunately, Go Hard is counterintuitive to the deep strategy.
Well, it's weird, right? Because Go Hard's counterintuitive, shuffling cards in, but at the same token, I feel like playing Go Hard, you draw so much, you're down to like 5 cards sometimes.
Look, all I'm hearing is that Twisted Fate Nautilus, deep Go Hard. It's the new meta.
One thing we need to talk about that, we didn't see a single Notify in that list. So maybe it just wasn't teched for the Go Hard matchup.
Yeah, it's been Nopify is definitely more on the lesser played side in the Shenfior at the meantime. I think they have, for the most part, cut those for the Sharp Sights and decided that is just the more flexible card in that slot. And with Twisted Fate Swain hard falling out of the meta, I can definitely see that was the one deck where you're like, yes, Nopify counters literally every single spell in this deck. I absolutely love it. And as that started to fall out, it's more fringe playable. When we talk about like unearned passage, it's like, yes, you have legal targets against your opponent. Nopeify kind of feels like it's in the same vein of, okay, yeah, there's like one, maybe two spells that I can actually get, but because I'm a deck with not no draw power, because I do have the River Shapers to try and find additional copies of that, you just don't want those finding dead cards.
We didn't see a single River Shaper that game.
Yeah, that I would imagine they're still in there.
Well, and
although if you're using SJW logic, there's at most two.
All right, listen, where's that deck list? Where is this deck list? We need this deck list, all right? I am sick of this.
Funny enough, we actually did see someone playing 2 River Shaper in the RCO Invitational, so...
oh, wow. Yeah, oh, yeah, that was really weird there was only 2. And it's funny because that game, it seemed like Portugal's hand, I think it was you, Boulevard, that mentioned this, and I agreed, it was
ideal.
Really good. It was super ideal. You had a perfect mix of units and spells. Not only that, you had the deny on backup as your kind of fail safe if you get screwed with a ruination or something like that. And I think actually not getting those River Shapers, like we would have needed to just draw into a River Shaper at some point. Just at any point, getting one River Shaper would have been fine. We had the barriers for it. We had everything we needed to support it. But you could see at the end of the game there, having only 3 cards left, that seems very indicative of not having drawn those River Shapers throughout the game, and that's how that deck keeps up on advantage with other decks.
So if you're France right now, what deck do you really go for? I feel like you don't actually have great matchups.
Discard aggro.
I feel like
with any deck.
Yeah, I mean, everything left in France's lineup looks like it has a pretty good shot at losing to Shen Fiora. So I don't think, at the very least, I don't think we're getting a 3-0. I think that this Shen Fiora on Portugal's side is going to pick up at least one win. It's just a matter of how many games in a row do you want to run it out trying to do that. And if you are expecting the Shen Fiora run back because it has such a good matchup into everything that you have left, what do you go for here? I think discard aggro or Lee Sin are probably your best bets, but I don't feel great about any of them.
I was thinking Lee Sin, right, is probably your best bet on the side of
it's going to be Scouts right into Frostbite mid-range.
Oh,
wow.
Ouch. That is... Historically, everyone knows how this one works out.
This works out. France losing is how this works out.
Yeah. But obviously there are turns where, Ash Sedge can just brick the early game hand and then you just lose because of a relentless pursuit. That is always a possibility.
Was it Portugal that we saw yesterday that is back to the Reckless Trifarian version?
Yes, I believe so, with the Kato the Arm.
Which is worse into Scouts, I think.
Yeah, so I remember back when these decks were insanely popular, I was kind of like data tracking, this started off Bannerman versus Frostbite midrange as just one of the most one-sided matchups. And then every iteration of these decks that continue to evolve over the course of the game gave about 5 percentage points back to the Demacia side, to the point where if you are running the Reckless Trifarian version, it feels closer to a 65-35 at worst. And that means if you play 3 games, you're winning one of them on the Scout deck. It's about as close as it's ever been. Yes, it's still Frostbite midrange favored, but I think it'd be wild to think that you're ever going to get a Demacia board-centric deck to be 50-50 against Frostbite. But if you are running that more aggressive version of the Frostbite deck, then this is as good a matchup for Scouts as you probably could have hoped for in this particular regional combination.
Yeah, it's at least playable, right? It's not like it's a...
So this is the non-Bannerman version. Okay, from France.
Yeah, we're just going hard on the actual Misfortune game plan with the Island Navigator, and I really hope that this isn't post-Mulligan.
Yes, not. You can still see the replaces. But the problem I have with this lineup is the fact that Misfortune just never lives. Like, you have to have Misfortune plus Sharp Sight to play around Culling Strikes.
And I think Reckoning gets a lot more done in this matchup than it did in others as well. Just sort of other iterations of the Scout deck. Because with things like Island Navigator, you have to think, what did we cut for that? I don't think we've got any 6-drop other than Genevieve Elmhart, and even she is not going to be able to get a whole lot outside of the Reckoning range. And there's no Bannerman. Typically, that's how we saw this matchup go, right? If you're setting up for a Reckoning and you're waiting too long on it, something like back-to-back Bannerman turns can put some of the key cards like Misfortune outside of the range of that Reckoning. And, no Bannerman, probably no Cithria of the Bold, and no turn 1 play either. I am curious to know if there is going to be Blinding Assault in this list as well. Just because you're playing things like Island Navigator, I would have to assume you've still got that in there.
Oh, for sure. But the good part is your opponent will only have 3 mana on the next turn, so you can drop down this Misfortune. You can even get an attack potentially with it on the side of France.
Which is the Trapper on 3 right on time for Portugal.
Man. This is the hand that you need, right? This is the thing. I was talking about Ashes Rani bricking, and that would have been stuff like double half guard Sejuani. Farron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is looking pretty bad for France. This is kind of the dream hand that you want for Portugal. You have these early units to throw down on curve. You have, like you just mentioned, the Trapper going into the Babbling Bjerg as well on turn 4. And you get a
Trapper.
Yeah, exactly. And you're probably going to be starting to draw into some spells as you've just drawn, most of your units. Plus you have Aversion Sentry on board to start cycling through your deck. And yeah, this completely shuts down this Misfortune attack, which feels really bad because honestly, if it wasn't for that Trapper, this Misfortune attack going in this turn would have been really, really good. We could Sharp Sight with this Misfortune. That just feels,
no, you don't.
Yeah, seems bad. I mean, do we really want to pressure that much?
The problem is if you attack here and then there's a Yeti on the next turn, that's your main worry, right?
Wow.
You're then forced to Oh, they're going for it. This is maybe them just France recognizing, well, look, we're losing on board already. We need to start doing anything we can. We have Riposte on the next turn, at least to keep Misfortune alive if we need to.
Yeah, or we have the Brightsteel Protector as well.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Here's all right. How does France win? You got to think. How does France win? And France wins as any Scout or Misfortune deck would win when they leveled up Misfortune. So if we do get
oh
wow, and Valor coming down too. So
no.
That's a Yeti on turn 4.
Yeah, exactly.
This actually looks really good for France, if I'm being honest. They have enough protection for the Misfortune, as well as a cheap Scout and Relentless Pursuit. The Misfortune could level next turn.
Yep.
Or this turn.
This turn,
on the
I
open
think you have to play respectfully of the if they go for an open attack, you're fine. But I think you do want to play respectfully of that Trifarian Glory Seeker.
You play Brightsteel you can't do it, right? You can't play all of it. Yeah.
No, it's next turn. No. I think we're pretty safe to do it.
No, the Misfortune's dead.
Yeah. This feels so bad. We almost had
France,
it.
Yeah, they had the opportunity, but playing a little bit more risky, and the Glory Seeker is going to be the punish.
I mean, I don't hate that decision, right? Like it makes sense that okay, we just need to go as aggressive as possible early on, otherwise we lose. But yeah, we could have possibly had that Misfortune leveled up really early on in the game here. Unfortunately, just not going to work out. This does... no, I think it's just all downhill from here.
Maybe France feels like there's no way that we actually get the MF level off. Like, this feels like a pipe dream. We're going to commit all these resources to it just to get Culling Striked when we're sitting at 3 out of 4.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not a realistic win con. Instead, we're going to try to set up for as effective a Genevieve as possible. Which honestly, I still wouldn't have hated the idea of starting with Brightsteel into the Misfortune.
You're still 2 turns away from Genevieve. You could play Petty Officer on the next turn anyway, right?
I don't know. I think they were all in on Misfortune. I think they just went all in on
sitting
the
here up in our ivory tower, for sure that we know this Misfortune is safe to come down. The question is if there was a Relentless Pursuit, or not a Culling Strike coming down onto the MF after you've tapped out of Riposte mana because you're going for something like this Relentless Pursuit to try and level the Misfortune, have you just expended too many resources at that point to come back into the game?
Yeah, and looks like we are going to set up the block onto the Yeti at least, so I imagine something might trade with it, like this Scout unit coming down next turn with Valor, Blinding Assault getting played. Can we top deck another Misfortune? The answer is no, unfortunately.
And that is that a 5 attack Assessor or is that a 9 attack Farron?
Nah, Farron's been in hand since like first turn, hasn't it? So I want to say
it's been in hand for a while.
Yeah, I want to say the Assessor's buffed. We'll see once they hover the hand. I believe it'll pop up. But yeah, this astute academic getting pulled out of the Petty Officer too. We're starting to see Petty Officer played a little bit more now.
Really? I have not seen Petty Officer played.
We saw it last week.
Scouts played.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's that too.
I haven't seen this version of Scouts played. It's always been Bannerman.
It was.
SJW's talking about Petty Officer in general because we saw it. It was a Twisted Fate Swain versus Go Hard, and they were both running Petty Officer as a 2 or 3 of.
Which was really weird to me, but I mean, hey, it's coming back in full force. Well, not full force. It's coming back a little bit. We'll see if it's actually going to do anything here in this matchup. I don't think it will. We came into this knowing mid-range Frostbite had a little bit of an advantage in this matchup. And looks like we are still on the priority on the side of France here. Portugal opting to just pass back, knowing that they don't really have to be proactive here. France very much behind the 8 ball. Island Navigator, I don't think gonna get it done either.
Look at you throwing out sports references.
Wait, which one was that?
Behind the 8 ball.
Oh.
Pool is legally a sport, right? It's on ESPN.
I think technically it's a sport. Yeah, actually, if you watch some pool trick shots, that's some wacky stuff they do.
But
with
that
pool
still
balls.
feels like that almost feels more akin to like sleight of hand.
Yeah,
you guys are saying, you guys are talking about this as we're casting Runeterra.
yeah. Why? What's wrong with that?
ESPN also has Runeterra. I mean, not Runeterra, but esports games.
Yeah. Not Runeterra yet.
But that's
ESPN,
not like ESPN 7.
Yeah, 7.
I think Pool's made it to ESPN, the main channel.
Yeah. No, they're like ESPN 2. All right, let's be real. It's pool. Who really watches pool?
I don't. I've watched snooker, not pool.
Apparently, bowling got like just
really
spiked
popular.
ESPN's viewership over the course of quarantine.
I mean, if they
it's
knew
the
it
one
was,
sport you can still play.
If they knew it was best for them, they'd get Legends of Runeterra, because that's really where it's at.
Oh, this is actually pretty nice getting this Navori Blade Scout as a scout.
I mean, yeah, you're gonna get 4 damage through, so that doesn't feel terrible. So I guess now maybe the game plan is just gonna be to pivot to, can we get a single, like, really big turn on the side of France? But I don't think it's gonna be enough. On one side, mid-range Frostbite doesn't really have heal, so that is a valid strategy to go after. But on the other side, we're already pretty behind on board, or I guess you could say we're kind of even right now. But I don't think we're really gonna be ahead on board anytime soon. The Assessor, the Sejuani, it's just way too many tools on the side of Portugal.
Yeah, and the units are such. This is why I dislike this version of Scouts. You against any other list that has any other mid-range list, you just lose, right? It doesn't really matter what it is. You even lose to the other mid-range version of Scouts because they just have bigger units that just block everything. This is very much a win fast or die trying, basically. And if you don't pull it off by turn 6, you're usually losing.
And it looks like, I mean, we have Cythria to go, a little bit wider, I guess, going into the Genevieve turn. I don't know how much that's going to get done, though.
It's not going to do anything when the Sejuani comes down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
Because we still have Iceveil Calling Strike and there's so much going right for Portugal right now, and there is no pack your bags to bail out France this time around.
The card of the format, right? Unfortunately not played in Scouts.
France got the wrong memo. They heard that the card of the format was Petty Officer, and they were like, let's put that in a deck.
Yeah, I'm going to go after the Island Navigator here. Going to get the vulnerable tag. And yeah, like you guys said, even if we do go for a Genevieve turn, that Frostbite going to blow it out. Even if we didn't have the Culling Strike, just still so many ways to prevent aggressive turns, prevent swings on the side of Portugal. I do like the barrier, again, so it does seem like we are kind of going all in on this. Let's just have this wide board big swing, but that Frostbite really going to shut down this Genevieve.
I was going to say, like, the main thing, the problem I have with this version, again, is because you're running Petty, you're running more 1 HP units. So against SI, you basically can't play this version against SI.
Yeah.
Or Pack Your Bags, which is also SI, I guess. So and that's kind of like the main problem with it. So they were hoping to not get SI, but the problem is there's also just an Sejuani still left up and a Shen Fura, I believe, as well, which would just slaughter them.
Man, I hate this. I hate this so much. You can see exactly what France is trying to do here, and it's just not going to work out. Genevieve just going to get blown out. I mean, there's never 5... I guess.
What are you counting, SJW?
So what? I'm actually counting past 3 for one. So there's that. Well,
yeah, that's why I'm concerned.
I'm trying to figure out if there's somehow that they can get Portugal below enough mana to deal with something like the Genevieve, but it's not. They would have still at least had the Iceveil Archer if they went for something like Hearthguard first, like if this Genevieve wasn't played immediately, but. Yeah, it's just not going to work out, and we're going to get at least the scout attack. Not sure how much that's going to really get done here. We could technically pull the Sejuani with the Genevieve and riposte
it, and then we can just snap concede when we get. Oh man, we're pulling. I wanted to see the snap concession on the Calling Strike when we riposte to try and kill this Sejuani.
All right, so this still pushes damage. It's not.
Wait, how do you even kill the Sejuani?
You go for the riposte here,
On whatever it blocks, yeah.
Yeah, because everything does have 3 attack. I just noticed we didn't even go for the scout attack, so we are setting up for that kind of cheeky relentless pursuit where if things work out, we can go relentless into the scout attack. But because all your scouts are so weak, you've got 2-3 attack units and a 0-4. I just don't think you're getting any value out of the scout attack this turn anyway.
Yeah, and this is exactly why going into this game, why we said mid-range Frostbite had such an advantage. Just one single Frostbite, one, and it's an Ice Veil Archer, presents so many problems for France. It presents a blocker in the Ice Veil Archer, going to take out this Bright Steel. It presents shutting down Genevieve entirely, and not just that, because there's Scout. I mean, Scout is 2 attacks. Generally speaking, buffs are an advantage. Well, Frostbite is that much more of an advantage for the Frostbite player because it's shutting down essentially 2 attacks from anything with Scout, like on this Genevieve.
Yeah, the Hearthguard here as well on the side of Portugal is just going to be like, well, we can't even really play Relentless Pursuit anymore.
I mean, is there... Yeah.
You just drop Hearthguard, right? What are you worried about?
Yeah.
It's single combat. That's not going to do anything. You don't care. Relentless Pursuit, not going to do anything when you drop the Hearthguard. Riposte does literally nothing. A 1-mana unit does literally nothing.
Well...
Like, there's nothing to worry about dropping that Hearthguard there.
There is... Like, I'm trying to think of what the next attack turn would look like, even if we get something like Farron. There's a second Farron. Even if we get something like Farron down, we're probably going to see a Frostbite again onto Genevieve, but we are setting up for 2 Challenger units with a Repost. So whatever's reposted might be able to get direct damage through, and now we have Sharp Sight. So that's 5 damage to face, plus whatever is actually getting through if we're able to go wide enough. We actually, doesn't look like we can go wider than the board currently of Portugal.
Not enough.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near enough.
I think it's just not going to be enough for France here. Here's the Valor. And I think, actually, are they forced to 5-6? They actually are going to be forced to block with something, too, here if Portugal goes in for an attack. Which, with Troll Chant, why not? With Flash Freeze, why not? You might as well go in for an attack.
I think you're just playing respectfully of the riposte. You don't want to lose.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which of these
need
units
to,
you're
right?
so hanging on to so tightly. I'm still a little surprised by not going for the fair, and I don't think the cards that you drew were more impactful than representing the Decimate. And you were only going to be left with 3 mana unless you drew a Trapper or any of these weaker units that you really didn't want to see. You weren't going to be getting, a super impactful swing turn. I would have preferred to see the fair in there, I think.
This isn't terrible. This is 2 scout attacks. So this is going to be a scout. Even though this will get frostbitten, we will probably see repost onto the Valor, which we'll be able to take out a couple of units here, back-to-back attacks. 3 attacks.
Will it necessarily get frostbitten? I mean, if you see the riposte come down after, I mean, it's
and there's
still
a reckoning.
Yeah.
So that's a
Problem
thing.
solved.
All right. Well, bye-bye to the entire board of
You
France.
just hit OK here, hit reckoning, and that's pretty much
And then I
game.
guess, Genevieve gets to kill 1 more unit, but it doesn't matter too much. You are still going to be left with a 5/5, 2 Captain Farrons in hand. Your opponent has, 3 units. Are you worried about some kind of wild, relentless pursuit lethal? I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
If we do get reckoning after this attack, if this is just submitted and like Portugal okays it, we'll probably see a repost onto the Valor and then the Sharp Sight onto the Bright Steel Protector just to preserve the board. And then we also have Relentless.
Is that lethal?
I don't know.
No, your units aren't surviving. The Valor will survive. I think you could actually push
That actually pushes damage going that
something
route.
like 10 damage almost.
Wow, and they actually
not quite enough.
not playing the Reckoning actually is really smart then, I think, from Portugal, because that might not be lethal, but it might present almost lethal, and that might put Portugal in kind of a funky situation.
Yeah, I think you'd actually be fine waiting until after combat to go for the Reckoning, because France has already shown an unwillingness to go in with all these weaker units, and even if they do, then you don't have to play the Reckoning. You can just get down Ash instead.
All right, if this goes through, we might get a Reckoning. Possibly. Maybe not.
Probably not.
Depends. I mean, if we challenge the Hearthguard, no.
I think
You just
now
keep
we
hitting
go for the
pass.
Reckoning.
Yeah.
Do you? I think you just keep hitting pass, right?
Well, now that your
Because in case
opponent doesn't have the ability to set up and go for a big attack, I don't see a reason not to throw something down here.
Oh, wow. Still
Well,
passing.
you can just play Ash into a Troll Chant plus Reckoning next turn, right?
I'm not sure what play the Ashe this time. I mean, I guess we knew the Reckoning was coming, or not the Reckoning, the Relentless Pursuit.
No, yeah.
Still hanging on to this Flash Freeze, Troll Chant.
Yeah. This is really smart from Portugal. They don't need to be proactive. So they can wait until the very last minute to play this Reckoning if possible. And honestly, I think that the Flash Freeze and the Troll Chant will do a lot more to preserve their board and preserve their health than the Reckoning, since the Reckoning will kill their Assessor. So I do like these passes. This is really smart from Portugal to just pass and just kind of sit back and relax for a little while here. But unfortunately, this is going to put France in a situation where the turn that they utilized Relentless Pursuit, they weren't actually even able to attack with their entire board on every single turn like they'd want to.
The thing is also is that they can just hit okay here. They still have an Assessor on the board. And that's fine. You develop Ashe, you don't really care. I mean, you don't have to commit Troll Chant. I don't think you had to.
Yeah, and this is like 4. Okay, they're committing Troll Chant. Was that 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? They actually can do 9 damage here from France, but then we know that we get shut down by a Flash Freeze, which France has to assume there's freeze in the hand of Portugal right now. And I think
even if there's not, you commit your entire hand to deal 9 damage. Sure, I live it too. You're playing scouts. I get to wipe your board next turn, get down a Farron, and start to really put the hurt on you.
Yeah, I think the mid-range Frostbite is just too far ahead at this point. I don't think they end up committing the Riposte or the Sharp Sight. All right, actually gonna trade with the Hearthguard here, which this feels bad, or maybe just doesn't matter at this point.
I mean, your opponent's gotten off 2 pretty decently sized Assessors. I think the first one drew 2 and the second one drew 3.
Wow. And this is the one-sidedness of the mid-range Frostbite Scout matchup that we could potentially see. You know, we talked about this prior to the game. There is that small chance that, you know, you are able to eke out a win with the Scout deck, but it would have involved Portugal not drawing quite as well as they did to begin the game.
I don't know about that. We did see France with the opportunity to level a Misfortune really early on in this game, and instead not playing respectfully the Trifarian Glory Seeker.
Yeah, that actually was a big play.
That would have, honestly, I think, turned the match around quite a huge amount.
Because once MF levels, you don't have to worry about Culling Strike top decks from there on out. She is going to be at 4 HP, and you're going to push an insane amount of damage in the interim.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm curious as to why they decided to not keep the Riposte mana open there. There's so many.
Or Bright Steel Protector.
Yeah,
they didn't play around Culling or Glory Seeker.
I feel like their mindset going into this was, this is a non-favored matchup for the Scout deck, so we need to take every risk to actually win the game. And I think because of that, that's why they went for that play.
But Bright Steel Protector was fine, right? You didn't have to play Petty there.
Wait, Bright Steel, would that have kept open Riposte mana, or we would only have 3 mana
No,
left?
you wouldn't have Riposte, but you'd fall to Culling at least. It would have
only been Culling.
You'd be fine to Glory Seeker, but not to Culling. But in the line they went, they weren't fine to either.
Well, no, that's what I mean. They went all in. It was, we're just gonna go wide and then also keep.
Yeah, we're just gonna play no protection, even though we had it available, and they're gonna pay the price for it.
Yeah, and you know, I can't argue with going all in on a strategy. It happens. You know, that is a lot of the time how you're able to win games, is just saying, this is our strategy, we're gonna stick with it no matter what. But unfortunately, Portugal had the answer early on in the game, and allowed them to continue to snowball to a victory, it looks like here, even getting a 9-9 Farron down. I think France is dead. I think. Maybe.
You think?
Maybe.
You got a good set of
They
eyes.
might. Just a little bit.
I'm just guessing. Wow.
It's just as good as your guesses of how many cards there are in decks.
Hey, all right, listen. Where is this deck list? Where is it?
It'll come out after the finals. It'll come after the finals.
I am tweeting this. I'm blowing this up everywhere. There better be 2 Ruination in that
It's
deck.
a good thing no one cares about anything you tweet. So it's fine.
God damn it. I'm gonna be so pissed if there's no if there's 3 Ruination in that deck, or 1 even. Oh wait, no, there's definitely 2 because we saw 2. Okay. So France unfortunately gonna fall. Now we are 1-1 going into game 3 here. Again, 5 games. So this is we still got a little ways to go. Yeah, bless you. He was. He kept like
coming.
it was like
I had to force.
Yeah.
Do you reckon they're going to stick with Scouts, though? That's the question, right? The Scouts list, It got the Ashe Sejuani, but the problem is there's still a Shen Fiora, which also can do pretty well into it. I think the matchup with Scouts into Shen Fiora is very, very much dependent on do you draw Misfortune.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, that's kind of risky. I think going for Scouts again. Scouts doesn't seem to have the greatest matchups nowadays either. I mean, we aren't seeing Field of Rush on the side of Portugal. That's usually a deck that Scouts has a really easy time beating. We have Lee Sin Zed available on the side of France. That's an option. And I will be... All right, I was going to say this earlier. Discard aggro. I don't actually like bringing discard aggro to a tournament, specifically as an aggro deck, because I feel like that is such a roll of the dice RNG deck that I personally wouldn't feel comfortable picking that just out of the off chance you just get a absolutely terrible hand or just never draw a Jinx or an Augmented Experimenter.
You should say that to Team UK.
Yeah. Did they play it in the tournament? Discard?
Yeah, they lost twice in a row and had the worst draws in the world.
You don't say.
I gotta say, I really don't like the decks that France has remaining into Portugal's lineup. You know, now that we've kind of gotten to see the spread, see how the first couple of games go, there's a really good shot that Portugal's actually going to end up as the champions of this tournament.
Yeah, I was saying, you kind of on France's side, each one of their decks, apart from probably Weimar, has like maybe 1 or 2 good matchups out of the 5. There's no like, oh, this deck does like 60% of, it's gonna get 60% of whatever Portugal plays. So they kind of just have to roll the dice and hope to get the matchups they do well in. That's kind of about it. But the question is, which one do you want to roll the dice on? They rolled it with Scouts and that didn't work.
Yeah, I want to say, honestly, I feel like Lee Sin Zed has seen a lot of success today. And I feel like Lee Sin Zed might see a decent amount of success versus most of the decks that Portugal has here. Is there any absolute bad matchup that we don't want to see if we do pick Lee Sin Zed? I want to say maybe
It's probably got your best spread into the remaining decks of Portugal.
I want it maybe the Anivia, possibly, but I don't think it's a terrible matchup. Barrier seems okay. Yeah, I mean, I really feel like that might be the better choice. But on the flip side, that could lead to a mirror match. Because then there's the Lee Sin Zed on the side of Portugal.
You can't afford to go Lee Sin Zed on the side of Portugal in case Discard or MF or Scouts comes out again, right? Or even Fearsomes.
Yeah, there's a lot of good matchups for France on that. So this should be interesting as to what we get here for this third match. And again, I think that this is one of the first real interesting decisions as far as matchups are concerned that I think we've seen. And I think it has a lot to do with this being a 5-game series.
At this point, it doesn't make a difference. We're 1-1. It makes this is the best of 3. This would still be a very interesting decision on what deck you would be going for.
And we get the Lee Sin Zed versus the Shen Fiora.
All right. And I feel like that's still an okay matchup for Lee Sin Zed.
It's also okay for Shen Fiora. That's the thing. It's not as one-sided as most people would hope. Especially because Lisa, you can keep your units alive in the early game of Shen Fiora because you've got barriers, you've got sharp sights. So mounting Zed don't really do much. The only real punishes for those would be like Pale Cascades and Hushes, right? And then you can play around those potentially, depending on your hands. But again, like there's Concerted Strike. I think we've spoken about this matchup where Shen Fiora can deal with Lee Sin, and purely just because of the card Concerted Strike, first half hits the barrier, second half kills Lee Sin. So France can't really drop Lee Sin until probably turn 7-ish, where they have some. It depends on obviously if Portugal completely just empties out all their mana, but
yeah, I'm trying to think of what Portugal would actually. So let's say Lee Sin comes down on 5 and we have the capabilities of giving it barrier. What 5-attack unit could Portugal possibly have that would actually kill the Lee Sin through the Concerted Strike?
Screeching Dragon buffed up quite easily, right?
On turn 5?
Not on turn 5, no.
Yeah.
The other thing to consider, and I always, it's such a weird kind of first line to take with the Lee Sin Zed is just a really strong buffed up Mountain Goat. Like just pillaring on that Mountain Goat, I feel like is a good strategy most of the time, but it doesn't look like we have that early Mountain Goat. We do have 2 Zeds, not any, no Zenith Blades or anything like that. We have a Deny to potentially keep it around if a Concerted Strike or some combat. There it is. Too. Wow. All right, Zenith Blade. This might be good for France with this Zed here.
So I think the way that things are going to shake out here, we're going to see a pass out of both these players on 2. You throw down the Zed, they throw down the River Shaper. You can't Zenith Blade, or single combat is just a total and complete disaster for you.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that you can attack. I mean, you can attack if it's just a River Shaper, right? Because you do have the Sonic Wave.
See, I actually like throwing the Bright Steel Protector just on turn 2 and attacking for 3 against Lee Zed, just because it's an annoying unit. Your next 2 turns are going to be River Shapers most likely anyway. And if they do have a Zed, you have Riposte then.
Ooh. I mean, this is, I think, looking really good already.
You're going to sharp set here, right? That's like your only...
I was just apparently deciding that Pale Cascade... I'm just going to take the free spell draw by blocking the Shadow.
Yeah, we need some... Yeah, the units in hand right now, not the greatest for Portugal, because the way it currently shakes out, we're just going to be tossing River Shapers down as defense.
At the moment, this seems like it's really good for France. You can get the Zenith Blade. You have the Nopify to stop a single combat, even if there is something. I mean, maybe the double single combat works out for Portugal. It would have to be this turn specifically.
And it's still on the table, technically. Well, it won't work out now with the Zenith Blade, right?
Yeah, what I was actually going to say, so if France goes for the Zenith Blade and you single combat, I feel like France actually just lets that go and plays another Zed that is then guaranteed to level on the following turn, because unless Portugal gets down a Green Glade Caretaker, that's going to be an open attack from Zed to level it. I think that France is still just in a really good position no matter how they end up choosing to play this one, and if some beefier units do start to come down, we can get this Mentor of the Stones on the following turn.
Wow,
it's looking pretty good for France, but the problem is, do they go for that line? They could just pass.
And even if they just pass, I mean, it's kind of an awkward position at that point, because then you are going into a turn where they've got a River Shaper, they've got plenty of mana for some barrier. I definitely think France is going to play something this turn. Yeah. It's just, is it going to be the Mentor or the Zenith? It is going to be the Zenith. Now, how do we want to play these single combats? Is it something that Portugal is even interested in going for? I would have to assume the answer is yes, but there are a lot of situations where this doesn't, even just a Pale Cascade, would force out your Sharp Sight. Maybe you do go for it. Maybe it is worth it.
Yeah, it's crazy too. You're not trying to play around 2 Pale Cascade, or sorry, not 2 Pale Cascade, 2 single combats here. I mean, you definitely are considering 1, which you have the Nopify for. Now, the question is, I guess, how much will that matter later on in the game, having the 2 single combats used now? And I think, honestly, this is the perfect time to use them. I think this is where you want to get the value with these single combats on the side of Portugal. And I think this will be pretty good for Portugal overall.
I think best case for France, you let this go and just play Zed.
But do they go for that? That's the thing. They probably don't, right? They don't want to lose the Zenith Blade that they're committing. So they're most likely going to try to protect the Zed so they can get Zed plus Zenith Blade. But the downside, obviously, is, they're going to commit a deny, which is just going to get blown out by the second single combat.
Yep. There's no great punish on the side of Portugal on the next turn for the Zed. You do have Riposte Brightsteel Protector. Yeah, things are starting to get a little bit awkward here for France, because they just didn't want to get down the free Zed. And, I don't blame them. Deny really doesn't get a lot of uses in this matchup. I want to say a little surprised to see the Deny over the Nopify, because Concerted Strike, as Gems had mentioned earlier, is one of the bigger cards in this matchup, and we're just about out of single combats at this point.
Wow, we have another Zenith Blade that was just thrown off the top.
That was just the
Zenith Blade ability.
Oh wait, I thought. Oh no, I don't know why I was thinking it was denied when the deny was on the single combat.
Oh yeah.
Never mind. So it looks like we will see most likely the Zed come down here. But I got to agree with you, Boulevard. There's no reason to play the deny. Like, deny also is for Concerted Strike, and that's really the only now Nopify is less valuable because there's one less single combat in the deck. So I don't know why we went for that.
Really didn't expect that second single combat.
Yeah.
Do you just drop Screeching here and not play around Pale?
You could drop Screeching. Even if you drop Brightsteel, you have that Sharp Sight, right? And there's not enough mana on the side of France. So they would have the Pale Cascade, but either way.
I feel like if you're on Portugal's side, you take the risk at some point, because I feel like you have to in this matchup.
So, what's wrong with letting the Zed level, right? This is the second one. You can just go in for the Screeching Dragon attack on the Zed on the following turn.
There's nothing wrong with it, but it's more of a If I get Screeching Dragon to trade it in here with Zed, and then I have a Screeching Dragon with 5 attack on the next turn, I can then Bright Steel Protector it, and nothing France can do. They can't develop, right? And you can just force their whole turn to be a dud.
And you could also just challenge the Zed on the following turn, in which case you don't just straight up lose to a Pale Cascade.
Yeah, the problem I mentioned with that, though, is obviously if you attack, you challenge Zed, and if they have Lee Sin in hand, they can just now dump Lee Sin quite safely.
I feel like they could do that anyway.
Or not just necessarily. If you're floating, if you're sitting with Bright Steel Protect Screeching Dragon on the board and you haven't attacked,
I just don't feel like that matters too much.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, because of that attack from France, that lack of an attack, Portugal should have a read. There's no Pale Cascades.
Yes, yeah, 100%. But we do have Concussive Palm, this is going to be really good going into the Screeching Dragon if the Dragon challenges it. I think you're cool. I mean, I guess you still play Zenith Blade here because you do have the Concussive Palm. You do get blown out again by single combat. Are you really on the read that your opponent has the third single combat right now? I gotta say no, but I guess the other question is, do you play the single combat if you're Portugal and the Zenith Blade comes out again? It's really close. It's really
I don't
close.
see a reason not to while you do still have the barrier. One of the ways that this goes down here, and this would basically result in the end of the game for France, go for the Zenith Blade. Single combat comes out. Bastion comes out. Sharp Sight Attack the Zed comes out because that Zed's going to be a 5/5 when all is said and done because of the Concussive Palm, or because of the Zenith Blade and the Bastion. Instead, we're just going to go for this Eye of the Dragon to start things off.
Okay, this is good. This still leaves up 7 mana to play the Zenith Blade and the Concussive Palm if needed. And
this could be where the Nopify on the single combat comes up, because the only other target in this deck is Relentless Pursuit, right? And you've already seen 2 single combats.
Wow. So, okay, I'm going to give credit where credit's due here. This is why the Deny was played. And if they had that much foresight to calculate their mana so that they knew that they would only have enough mana to play a Nopify on a turn like this, that's a really good play on the side, I think, of France if we do actually get the single combat out on this turn.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I feel like the main target for denying this matchup is Concerted, right?
No, I agree. I still think it's questionable. So that would literally, the only reason that you would play the Deny there is if you specifically were concerned about not having Deny mana on a future turn where you would need to deny something, and that answer is
pretty immediate
Nopify.
Future turn as well. Yeah,
yeah,
so
exactly.
It does work out for them. And now, I mean, the problem is there's still barrier spells on the side of Portugal. You don't have a Hush to get through those with your Zed, and you are sort of pillaring on the Zed at the moment. Yeah, you can get down the Mentor on the following turn, but if there is just a riposte and then a block from the Screeching Dragon, or even the Bright Steel Protector, if you want to go ahead and, Resonating Strike a Challenger onto something like the Dragonling or anything else, you're not going to be in a good spot, and things just look like they're snowballing more and more for Portugal. But if France finds a Lee Sin, Portugal doesn't have a great way to kill it immediately. The Screeching Dragon probably can get buffed up a little bit. We do have the Bastion, though, to negate that.
Yeah, now we have, if we want, we have enough mana to go Zenith Blade. If single combat comes out, we have the Nopify. If Concerted Strike comes out, we have the Bastion. So that might be the play that we go for here. We could also open with Mentor and not play the Zenith Blade, maybe holding it for something like a Lee Sin a little bit later.
Does Portugal have to even commit any of those spells? They can just riposte. Wait for a Hush, and if there's a Hush, then they can play one of those spells.
Yeah, if the Zed goes in for the attack, that might be the case. It looks like going with the Mentor. I think
France has to go in with the attack, right? You don't have another Concussive Palm. If you don't do something with the Zed here, it's just dying to the Screeching Dragon on the following turn. Is it going to work out for you? Probably not, but at least you get the riposte out of your opponent's hand rather than just giving up the Zed for free.
Yeah, the thing is, this Portugal match, there isn't a good way to deal with this Bright Steel formation on France's side outside of Lee Sin, basically, and they haven't drawn it. And they're running a little bit out of time to actually get to drawing Lee Sin before this comes down on the board, because the second that Bright Steel formation comes down on the board, your whole board is going to be wiped basically from a single attack, and you're going to have to be able to set up Lee Sin plus your full OTK combo and everything through potential number of spells.
And looks like this is going to be the single combat, which I imagine is going to get the Nopify from France. And if this does work out where we get the Nopify in the single combat and then the Bastion to negate the concerted strike.
I don't think you go for concerted because you have double barrier in hand.
Yeah, I think you're right, Gems. I think that repost is probably going to be the route that Portugal is going to take here. And that means that Lee Sin, Zed, even if it does get buffed up by this mentor, is going to get taken down by whatever blocks it. Probably, I don't know. You could block it with the Screeching Dragon onto the tail of the dragon, and then maybe repost the Brightsteel.
So the line is you block with Screeching plus repost. If they have Hush, you then Sharp Sight, right? Or do you go Sharp Sight first? Then either way, you basically go that sort of line, which is the only punish would be double Hush.
Yeah, the Screeching Dragon probably blocking the mentor, actually, not the tail. So,
no, you block Screeching Dragon just blocks Zed plus Hush, right? And it depends on this. There's a challenge and you pull it across.
Huh. Resonating Strike. Okay, yep.
I like this because now if you probably, I mean, we do know that Portugal has the 8 mana to save both units if they want, but in France's mind, you are diversifying your threats to a point where your opponent needs to decide, are you going to save the Screeching Dragon or are you going to kill the Zed? Unfortunately, Portugal gets their cake and eats it too, but actually, no, it looks like it's just going to be the Concerted Strike coming out to kill the Zed since we are below Bastion mana.
Yeah, now it's Concerted Strike is the safest option.
And so eventually, wow, wait.
You're going to still lose your Screeching Dragon, though. And I mean, we do still have Sharp Sight mana.
You're not.
Sharp Sight has to come out.
Fury, you're not losing Screeching Dragon.
Yeah, you barely.
Right.
Yeah, it lives at 1 thanks to the Fury. So this is pretty big for Portugal. I think this is where it starts to kind of swing in their favor. And like you guys mentioned earlier, not a good way. I think it was Gems. Not a good way to deal with Brightsteel formation. We did cast 2 spells, so we're gonna get the reduced count deep med, but we need Lee Sin. We absolutely need Lee Sin, and we need it now. And
the problem with Lee Sin is you don't have spells outside of those gems, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's,
we
don't even have those.
A mountain goat.
Yeah, not what you're looking for.
Wait, how does this interaction with the 4-drop? It just gives you another challenger, right?
Yeah. It's just every time you strike, you randomly create a challenger.
It's so bad.
Whoa. Portugal's in the finals, Gems, all right? We can't just openly call it bad. Actually,
it is bad.
How much have you seen that card do? Actually, I ain't seen it get played yet.
Yeah, we did. Didn't we see it last game? Or
Did
no,
it die immediately?
Yeah, I think
it didn't do anything.
No, we got 1 unit, didn't it?
Mana for a 3 time. I mean, I guess, like, when your opponent's playing 4 mana for a Mountain Scryer, you go, haha, I will take the opposite end and play 4
It's worse than Rhinefang Wolf.
That invokes me a random challenger.
It's worse than Rhinefang Wolf, and that's a 3-mana 3/2.
And to think it was once worse before it got buffed. I mean, there is...
was the level up on the Lee Sin, right?
I think so.
Yep, that's level up. So the one thing I will say about these Lee Sin decks, I mean, it does have the ability to, survive and outlast for a little bit. I don't know how long it's going to outlast a Brightsteel formation, but, we do have some lifesteal with this Dragonling. We do have units to defend with. We have, another Eye of the Dragon in hand. It's just very curious to see what this next draw is. I think this next draw is going to kind of determine France's fate here.
I mean, they still have a couple of turns, right? You're not even dead on the turn that the formation comes down because there's no Shen to buff up the entire board. Yeah, you're going to fall down a little bit, but I think you've still got a solid 3, maybe 4 turns before Portugal's actually starting to push through for the win, and they don't have an answer for a Lee Sin.
No. But you'd expect that there isn't one, right? At this point in the game. We've seen, and if they don't play it here, when you've seen, their only worry would have been another concerted. We've seen 3 single combats and 1 concerted already.
And even then, we have the Bastion. So, I mean, if France can find the Lee Sin, in the next couple of turns, they actually could still sneak this one out. It only needs to get up to 8 attack.
Yeah, we have everything we need for that combo, right? It's just a matter of actually drawing it. So, next turn would be Prime, but
but it's a deep meditation.
Well, it does thin the deck.
Not bad.
Thins the deck.
Yeah, it thins the deck a lot. But the problem is Brightsteel formation's coming down into another Brightsteel formation. How do you handle that?
Oh, Jesus.
You just block them.
That's big.
It does still give us 2 draws to try and find the Lee Sin.
Okay, concussive, not bad. that will help us live a little bit longer as well, alongside another Eye of the Dragon. Laurent Chevalier actually getting work done, though. Getting rid of that first Eye of the Dragon might actually be the difference maker between, how many more turns France can actually live here.
Yeah,
I'm trying to give it some
we
credit.
don't see them go for it because there isn't a second spell that you really want to commit here to actually get the Dragonling.
Yeah.
I think you do, honestly think is Portugal doesn't want to slap down formation, obviously, because there's still 9 mana available for France, but France is going to be quite happy to take that pass back. So do you just risk it and just dump formation?
I mean, if the worst case is that Lee Sin gets, or Lee Sin kicks it back to your hand, that's really not that big a deal for Portugal. You're gonna play a Brightsteel on the following turn anyway. I think it's fine to throw it down here.
Yeah, and last turn there wasn't a Lee Sin that came down. It would have otherwise. So the chances that they just top decked it are pretty low. So yeah, I like this. I think this is just playing towards, all right, we're all in on ending this game in the next 2 to 3 turns. Can we do it? What do we got?
They'd have to have the 1-drop die, the Mentor.
Well, they only need 8 attack on the Lee Sin, so between the Zenith Blade and the Bastion, and even if the Mentor lives and you just buff it up with the Mentor, then you still got it.
The Blade for Bastion's only 7, right?
Lee Sin has 4 attack when he's leveled.
So it's only 6.
So Zenith, Bastion, Mentor buff.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you mean that way, yeah.
Yeah.
And wow.
Are we just not letting Mentor die?
Yeah, it looks like they don't want to let the Mentor die. And if they are running the calculations on, what are the ways that I lose the game, theoretically, with perfect information, the Spirit's Refuge actually does seal the deal for Portugal because you cannot get that Lee Sin up to 10 attack, I don't think.
Wait, what?
Not without Pale Cascade.
They misclicked.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
They didn't pull...
Oh, man.
No. You can see Peps is like, oh,
that
God.
Feels
yeah,
bad.
You didn't go in with the Brightsteel formation.
Yeah.
There's no universe where you don't attack with that card.
What? Just how do you misclick that?
In the finals.
Oh my
so
god.
Maybe you do want to let this maybe you do want to let the Mentor of the Stones live, and that's why you don't go in with the Brightsteel, but you would still want to pull the Mountain Goat with the Fleet Feather then, because now, if France wants to, they can have this die, but actually going to get the Pale Cascade, dig a little bit deeper for the Lee Sin, still not finding it.
All right.
Ends up being okay for them, actually.
Yeah, so it looks like it didn't matter.
I think Portugal is going to have this. France would need 13 mana and a Pale Cascade going into the next turn in order to kill Portugal from 20.
Mm-hmm.
Do they even have the mana pool to do it?
Not right now, no. I think it's a 13 mana play. Oh no, it might even be 14.
Because you need what? You need 2. You need a gem, Zenith Blade. That's
well, you don't have to Bastion. So yeah, actually, if you had the Pale Cascade, it'd still do it. But I mean, we got the draw from the Pale Cascade, and it was not Lee Sin, so this would have been our draw on the following turn. Could have thrown out the Guiding Touch though. I was a little surprised to see the Mountain Goat get try to survive through that. I mean, we're still not dead on the next turn, I guess, if the Mountain Goat lived.
This is honestly so close.
Yeah,
and there's set number 3 instead of any amount.
Wrong
and
champion.
River Shaper on the other side to draw the last few spells if they can get to them. If they can get to the Concerted, because we've seen one River Spirit's Refuge, 3 single combats, 1 riposte. How many sharp sights have we seen?
I want to say 1, maybe 2, but France just loading up on these denies, right? Like, absolutely useless in this hand, not finding the Lee Sin. This feels like a very unfortunate game for France, but I mean, sometimes that is the way that the deck goes. And do believe Portugal is going to move up 2-1 here. So if France does manage to win this series, then the best of 5 finally coming into play. Or is Portugal? Because like we had said, we don't love France's spread into everything that Portugal has remaining. The Lee Sin felt like your best bet, but even it is losing to. I mean, we had mentioned, Shenfiora probably going to get a free win for Portugal still. France isn't out of the woods, but Game 5 I think is going to be interesting if France runs back this Lee Sin and picks up a win in the next game.
And there's Bright Steel number 2. I think we're good to go ahead and win the game here on the side of Portugal. Feels bad drawing a champion and not having it be the champion that you want. Oh, man. Dude.
Here's some blocker.
Well, you can block Sith 3, I guess, with one of them. Yeah.
But your opponent has 3 challengers, so those are gonna take everything.
Do you play Zenith Blade?
I don't think it matters because at the moment the blockers are gonna be the 3 challengers and the Cythria, so you're still taking 20 damage from the 2 Bright Steel formations. It's just not enough on the side of France, and if they draw the Lee Sin on the next turn, that's just gonna be insult.
Oh, I was thinking playing Zenith Blade so you can Bastion to block. You can then Bastion to block a Bright Steel formation.
I mean, they might have to, right? I throw out a gem onto one of these mentors, throw out the Bastion onto it on the next turn.
Yeah, they have to do that. I think that's the only way they survive.
And then
I think they legitimately have to do that.
Yeah, and I think they live at 1 when they do that. If if Portugal so deems it and wants to throw out the riposte onto the Genevieve just to put them at 1, I don't think that's going to be the case. But they are at least going to survive and get another chance at another attack turn. Are you? And Lee Sin would be lethal then, right? Because you're going to have 6 gems in hand.
Yeah. Oh boy, do you play the second Sin?
I don't think so, just because you're challenging all the other units anyway.
So if we somehow top deck a Lee Sin, oh my god, the fact that this deck, and I guess this just goes to show the power of Lee Sin.
I don't know if we're going to have enough hand space for all the
that's what I was about to say. You're not going to have hand space, potentially. You might just end up throwing away Lee Sin. Because you can't throw the gem. I mean, you can play Eye of the Dragon, actually. You're fine.
Yeah. As long as you get 5, you need 5 gems.
And I think we do have the hand space as long as we play the Eye of the Dragon, so I think we're good to go. So we literally have come to the point where France has continued to just drag this game out to seemingly the last draw to see if we can get a Lee Sin.
But the Screeching Dragon didn't actually pull anything, and because it's fearsome, we only have the 1 additional blocker. We are going to die to the riposte, actually.
You're just dead to riposte. If they go for it. They might just not even go for it.
I don't see a reason for them not to. I don't think and I don't think the riposte is really getting any more value. It doesn't help you not lose to the Lee Sin in any capacity. You might as well push for the win with it.
Yeah, because you see Bastion being played on a mentor to create a blocker. You must agree they don't have anything, right?
Yeah, it's feels bad.
Yeah, they don't have it.
All right, but this still assuming that Portugal doesn't draw something crazy as a top deck.
It's just 21 damage.
Yeah, it's just that.
Oh wait, this is 18. Am I looking at something wrong?
13
sorry, the repost. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? This is 18 damage on board. Okay. I mean, is there anything Portugal's worried about? I don't think so. No. Okay.
No. Hush is like the only thing.
Oh yeah, Hush. Yeah.
We haven't seen a single Hush.
Yeah, but even you're trading a riposte for a Hush. That's probably a trade that you're going to make at some point in the game.
And I don't think
there's nothing that punishes you. There are things that make it so you don't have lethal, but none of it is detrimental to you.
Yeah, exactly. Man, and France just did their best to try to make it to a turn where they could go ahead and draw a freaking Lee Sin, and it just never came the entire game.
France was just letting Portugal stew there for a bit.
What feels really bad for France is when you go back and watch the VODs, you're going to realize that both of those games were probably winnable.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the Scouts one. I think the Scouts won.
The Scouts was winnable, yes, 100% because of that misfortune.
Well, not necessarily winnable, but they had a much stronger line earlier on that could have put them in a much better position later on.
And then this time around, if you had just let the first single combat go, played the second Zed, leveled the Zed, maybe that actually does get you enough board control through the mid game to start to take it over, because you do get the pillar on that with the Zenith Blade and the Bastion and all that cool stuff you had available. I don't know if that one was super winnable. I think just not drawing Hush or Lee Sin at any point means you would have eventually lost that Zed to a repost. But yeah, I definitely feel like game number 2 was winnable. But that means Portugal is up 2-1. The series is not over, as it is a best of 5, and I think that France can pick up a pretty free win with the Lee Sin again in the next match, and then, it comes down to what's going on game 5.
Assuming they can draw the Lee Sin.
That is step 1.
Yeah.
So
step 1, yeah.
Generally speaking, when your deck is named after the win condition and you don't draw the name of the deck, it's a little bit of an issue winning the game. So unfortunate for France not drawing it there. But I agree. I think we're going to see the Zed Lee Sin just rolled back here in the next game, because again we were looking at these matchups and it just seems like that deck has the best matchups overall with every deck on the spectrum on the side of Portugal, whereas man, I just don't ever see them picking discard aggro. We went over this before. It just seems like too RNG heavy of a deck, and the other decks don't seem like they have great matchups either. So it looks like we're getting 2 solid Lee Sin Zed games back to back here. Now do we think that Portugal is now picking Lee Sin Zed? Is that an option for Portugal now?
It definitely is. However, though, the problem I thought with Lee Sin Zed is they don't have, if I remember correctly, we'll go back to the pick, but I don't think they had a great spread of matchups, because there was like 3 aggro lists still available.
Yeah.
And if for some reason we see France just play like discard or something, or Scouts, that could just end up going really badly for them.
Yeah, and then France might, if game 5 comes down to a Lee Sin mirror because France outmaneuvers the pick ban here and actually goes, but like it feels so weird to try and go for something like discard aggro while Go Hard is still on the table.
Yeah, Go Hard, and that's crazy. We did see France take a win in game 1 with Go Hard, but Portugal still has that as an option. So now that you mentioned that, Boulevard, Go Hard does seem like it would also be a strong option on the side of Portugal as well. When you look at something like Lee Sin Zed, maybe this TF Go Hard is going to be a good option. They're actually going the 2 Elise, 1 Gangplank, 3 TF version of the deck as well.
And I think Portugal is going to be happy with that, because Peps Cola is the one that's been saying that Go Hard has a very good Lee Sin matchup.
Yeah, actually, yeah. So if we do get the run back on France, then that would be good. Weimer, I guess, is another good option.
It's pretty good into Brim. It's got like a 50-50 pretty much against anything. It's what a lot of you guys say.
Well, and I guess that's kind of what I'm finally learning a little bit of the ins and outs of this Weimer deck here, being on the EU side of things today. And yeah, I mean, it seems like that kind of is what France is pigeonholed into now with, playing Lee Sin Zed either again or, maybe game 5 if they can make it to game 5, or playing Weimer, because Fearsome seems like it's good versus most decks, but right now, all of these matchups doesn't feel too hot. Discard aggro in general just doesn't feel too hot. Scouts, we just saw, unfortunately, lose a game in game 2 that they might have won, so maybe they try to go with Scouts
and
again
we
as an
get Lee
option.
Sin versus Go Hard.
Yep. Here we go.
Yeah, this is actually kind of expected, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Portugal could have ever gone for the Lee Sin of their own, and it feels like they can't really go for their more control lineups because they would potentially just get blown out by one of the 3 aggro lists, and France knows that as well. They can't risk playing those because Portugal's never going to pick it, right?
Yeah. And this feels great because a lot of NA players that I've talked to have said that Lee Sin's favored in this matchup, but Peps Cola has been adamant that the Go Hard is favored against Lee Sin. So he's got a chance to put his money where his mouth is and take home a tournament win if he does end up correct.
Yeah, and it's a load of money he's winning for their team with this. I believe it's just straight, what was it, 15, guess the 5k each, I think?
As far as prize money is concerned?
Yeah.
I don't have any idea.
I think it's like 10, 7, 5, 5 or something like that.
But I'm pretty sure if you win the whole thing, it's 5k each.
Oh, as far as I believe so, yeah. So, all right, well, Lee Sin coming a lot earlier this game. So a little bit refreshing, and it looks like we're just gonna go ahead and keep that. we're gonna hold on to that one so that we can guarantee that we get it early here, and even have the mountain goat for turn 2. So this looking like a much better start for France. But again, we just talked about this TF Gohard possibly having one of the better matchups into Lee Sin Zed. So we'll see if that's the case here in game number 4. Taking their time.
Well, we found the Lee Sin this time, so we're in a good spot. But I mean, Portugal's hand looks really good, right? You've got the Gohard opener, you've got the Chronicler Zap Sprayfin combo, that ideal target. I don't think Zap is dying at the turn that it comes down. But I also am not seeing a way to kill the Lee Sin. Also not seeing any protection for the Lee Sin at the moment.
I mean, how do you really kill Lee Sin in the Gohard deck? They have the Vengeance, right? Which never happens, or play a bunch of Gohards.
I mean, looking at the hand of France, it would work.
I mean, it would work for now, but there's Notifies, there's Denies, there's a...
Denies the only one that stops Vengeance, which is sort of the main one that I'm thinking of. We also, I don't know if Portugal's going to end up running that Crumble, but that is another chance. But, I mean, so far, who are you guys feeling favored with the hands that we're looking at this moment?
Oh, I got to go with Portugal. I mean, I think having this Zap Chronicler really early, I mean, anything that allows you to get this Gohard engine online ASAP with this deck and also keep that card advantage. And wait, actually, I said Chronicler Zap. Let me rephrase that. Chronicler Zap, Glimpse Beyond, and Salvage. All drawing cards. So no lack of card draw here, and that means we are going to get, and another Glimpse Beyond. We're getting Gohard online real fast.
Oh, okay. I was confused. I was as confused as Portugal about this lineup onto the Spiderling, but we do get the guiding touch. I feel like it's going to come down to, can Portugal find Vengeance before France finds Deny? Because there is no way, as James had said, outside of Vengeance to kill this Lee Sin with the Zenith Blade on it. That is a combo that we already see in France's hand. We've got enough burst speed spells to barrier up and get around the pack your bags. But, neither player having that key protection spell or kill spell just yet.
Yeah, I actually don't mind just throwing this Jagged Butcher down. It's just 3/3. Your next couple of turns are kind of going to be Zap anyway, and Chronicler. You're not really going to fit it in.
Oh, there's the Deny. So now everything that France could want in terms of protection, it's a matter of how much do we have to stagger the Lee Sin coming down, because you don't want to just run it out on 5 straight into a Vengeance. But I don't think you're going to have Vengeance mana on the side of Portugal on turn 5. You're probably going to go for either a Zap Sprayfin or a Twisted Fate here, and that puts you at most on 6 mana.
Yeah, do we see the Zap here? Most likely. You could go Twisted Fate and then try Zap and try get the draw engine going, because there's another thing is the fact that the only way to really remove Twisted Fate is Sonic Wave or Lee Sin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that Twisted Fate is probably the better play here. We already have Sonic Wave in hand, so Sonic Waving something like this Goat to get rid of Lee Sin feels pretty good. To get rid of Twisted Fate. Hard. But yeah, wow. But did we got another glimpse though? Is that really bad that we missed the Gohard if we're just getting more draw?
Not really, and I don't know if you're gonna play these as draw. These are sort of your dodge the Lee Sin buttons. Mm-hmm. It's a trick that only works, potentially once, because Lee Sin will just come through with the overwhelm, and maybe you only survive 2 hits of that. It kind of depends on how many Doom Beasts you can get out there, but at the moment, things still feeling like they're going about as well as France would want them to.
Yeah, they're not under too much pressure on this board. The open attack as well is not something really to worry about. You've got Guiding Touch in hand to heal some of it. You can just then slap down Lee Sin actually already.
Yeah.
I think. Well,
yeah, your opponent's only going to have 6 mana next turn.
Yeah, so you're safe to pretty much everything.
So as much as Portugal, I was just going to say, so as much as Portugal, has all this draw, we actually haven't found Crumble or Vengeance yet. So if we do get Lee Sin on early, this could be a big deal.
I don't think people are really playing Crumble anymore, SJW. I can't remember the last time that we saw it.
Every time I've seen that card, it's just like it just sits in everyone's hand as like one of the deadest cards. Yeah. What makes it so bad is the fact that it's a slow spell. I think if it was fast, it'd be a bit better. A lot better, actually.
Yeah, well, of course, I think it being fast would be better. I don't know. I still feel like Crumble is decent in certain matchups. I would be curious to see if Portugal is running it in this version, but for now, it looks like we are just going to go with the attack. If we don't play Crumble, that means we are really just relying on Vengeance, and that's even less options to go ahead and kill this Lee Sin. So if we get this attack through, I imagine we just, we block maybe the Elise with the Mountain Goat. That means we're getting Lee Sin down on turn 5 with 3 spell mana still up. And our opponent is outside of Vengeance mana this turn, so we know we can pretty safely get this down, assuming they're not playing Crumble.
And it looks like we're just going for the most efficient preservation of health.
I always feel like that's such a... Like, is that the most efficient? Because technically you save 1 more health, but then technically Elise would generate another 1 damage on a following turn. So I always kind of up in the air as whether or not to block the Elise or the 3 attack unit.
You just dropped Lee Sin here. This is the question we've been talking about all game. You need to get the engine going at some point. And you need to start clearing some of Portugal's board because they are slowly hitting you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this by Portugal. Regardless of whether or not they're playing Crumble, this is what closed deck list does. We are keeping 5 mana open.
Portugal to commit anything, but if they didn't commit anything on the first burst pass, I don't think they're committing anything on the second burst pass. And now France, you still have to make the decision as to whether or not you're going to play this Lee Sin.
I mean, what are you worried about for 5 mana? It's just Crumble, right?
Yeah, it's just Crumble.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I was talking, got like cut off because good old internet again. But yeah, what I was trying to say was this is what I like about closed deck lists, because you don't know what your opponent is playing, so you don't know what to play around. So now, on the flip side, when you're trying to kind of bluff things to your opponent, you can bluff a lot easier. You can hold open something like 5 mana, even if you're not playing Crumble, and your opponent still has to kind of respect that you have access to Crumble.
I gotta say, there are some things that are just like digital card game players are vehemently opposed to that you see all the time in traditional card games, such as closed deck list tournaments, entry fees.
Yeah, I guess I will say I feel like most people would prefer open deck lists. I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air. It provides an entire new level of or layer of playing the game if they are closed, because you have to be more knowledgeable of the game to play a closed deck list, right?
I was also thinking when we were talking about prize pools earlier, I'm not, necessarily unused to physical card games firing off $1,000 tournaments twice a month with a $20, $25 entry fee, but I know that in digital card games, people just hate the idea of an entry fee.
Yeah, it's quite common in fighting games just to play entry fees, and everyone does it, and it's kind of normal because it keeps all the locals running. But then they don't have as much. You have to take into consideration the fact that there is a much larger lack of sponsors, lack of support from developers, and just lack of everything else, basically. So they have to kind of become their own self-sustaining route, whereas card games and stuff usually see support from the developers, I think, and that's kind of one of the main differences, especially digital card games.
And still, really unable to get this Lee Sin down, unfortunately, for France, because if we do throw it, we won't have the Deny mana or even Bastion mana for that mana available. We do know that Portugal does not have anything to deal with the Lee Sin as of now, but this will get us some more gems. So when this Lee Sin does hit, it is going to be a pretty big boy.
I mean, this is just a lot of damage.
Yeah, it looks like we're at a point, and I don't mind this, because the one thing you have to keep in mind for France is Glimpse Beyond. That's going to dodge your Lee Sin kick. We are getting to a point where we are going to kill you with the Lee Sin Overwhelm, even if you do use a Glimpse Beyond.
Yeah, it's not going to matter. I think we have a Go Hard. Actually, that's the first Go Hard we've seen in a while, I think. That would be the second one.
We've only played one, yeah.
Yeah. So I think even with Go Hards, yeah, I think you're right. Lee Sin's going to be at a point where it's just going to do enough damage on his own. We don't even really care about Glimpse. So, yeah, doing work here. This is really good on the side of France, I think. We need removal from Portugal. But even if we get it, This Lee Sin's probably going to stick when it finally does hit the board next turn because we will have that 4 additional mana available.
I'm surprised they don't go for the Fortune Croaker first, just to see what they draw.
I think they want to draw more go-hards and really try to pack your bags down.
Yeah, this does increase the odds of it, but like, is it enough to consider?
The answer is yes if they draw go-hard.
Sounds about right. And
I'm also, I don't know what you could draw off the Fortune Croaker that would sort of, entice you to not go hard the goat.
What do you do on the side of... I think you just pass back here for France. If you do see the Fortune Croaker, I think you have to be banking 3 spell mana into next turn to get the Lee Sin down, right?
Yeah.
So...
And you need this... You just need to get Lee Sin down and survive the next turn. Those are your top priorities at the moment.
Yeah, so we are always... Oh, wow.
We don't want additional draw to come down or another go hard. We really want this mountain goat to survive, who honestly is becoming a lethal threat on his own.
Yeah.
Right now he is a lethal threat.
Wow, that's
he's
crazy.
A 10-3 mountain goat.
See, I don't know what it is about these mountain goats in this deck, man. So many games I've just seen large mountain goats actually pose a pretty big threat. And it's
it's just what goats like to do. They like to put themselves in really weird situations and positions where they actually just you don't know how they got there, but they got there, like the side of a cliff. They're like, how did you get to the side of this cliff? All right, let's
go hard number 3, and we still haven't fired off Salvage Croaker. We have so much more draw, and if we find 2 copies of Pack Your Bags to get through that deny, that's got to be lethal for Portugal. And there is Pack Your Bags.
Oh man, this is gonna feel really bad for France. We still, I don't think, because we spent the mana on this this overwhelmed goat, I think we're still not gonna throw Lee Sin down this turn. We're probably gonna be waiting for next turn to really go all in.
You're gonna have to probably throw Lee Sin to just survive.
Possibly, yeah, because of the open attack.
What it comes down to is, can Portugal find a second Pack Your Bags? And to be honest, they're not going to have a lot of mana to do it. They can only play
salvage enough, right?
Or it'll dig for it, but you're only going to have 4 mana to draw. You might have to go Glimpse Beyond and Fortune Croaker because it does draw 1 extra card. But if there is not another Pack Your Bags in the top 3, you are probably dead to Lee Sin on the following. Well, not necessarily, right? Because you are going to have another opportunity on the next turn when France actually develops the Lee Sin to try to find another Pack Your Bags. Go for the open Pack Your Bags, and that will at very least, force the barrier onto the Lee Sin, not let them get down to Zenith Blade. You probably just win on the following. So yeah, I think that Portugal is a very good chance that they've got it here.
4, 5,
but
6.
they only have 8 mana, so they can't actually play Lee Sin here.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying they have to get it down on the next turn, and then they're open to Pack Your Bags again.
Wow, and this coming down to the last minute again. So yeah, I agree. We're going to see the Lee Sin come down here. It will barely allow the... they can't get it down because they're going to deny the Pack Your Bags.
Yeah, they have to deny, and then if there's another Pack Your Bags in the top 3 or top 2, if they go for Salvage rather than Croaker and Glimpse Beyond.
Well, I think you go Salvage because if you don't get it with Salvage, you just play Pool Shark and you get the extra draw anyway on the next turn.
It's also... It's always... Man, I gotta say, I can understand why Portugal is pushing the fact that, you had mentioned Boulevard, they stated that TF Gohard kind of had a good matchup into something like Lee Sin. Deny feels like it does an okay job of dealing with something like Go Hard and Pack Your Bags, but the flip side, it doesn't. Like, you're going to deny it, and then it's still available. You still have access to it.
I'm looking more at the fact that we've had a Lee Sin in hand since turn 1. It's turn 7. We haven't gotten it down yet, even though Vengeance is the only thing that we should be afraid of. Yeah, that is going to... Oh, man, even 2...
Wow.
That is an insane amount of... Their last 4 cards were all Go Hard.
Yep. It looks like Pescola...
Portugal wins.
Yeah, it looks like he's getting a little happy now and probably running through some things in his head like, how can we possibly
They can only stop one of them. They can unless it's double Notify.
Yeah, and I think
Portugal's got this.
I think France knows
We
it
have-
now too.
We have our first EU Masters winners here in Portugal, and they know it. You can
Yep.
see it. They know exactly what's going to happen here. There's nothing for 4 mana, I believe, that can stop this.
Yeah, it didn't
This
even
from
go for the
happening.
Bastion to protect the goat. That is going to be Portugal taking it over France 3-1.
Wow, not even going to a 5th game. That's crazy. I really expected this to go to 5 games here, but it seems like Portugal just had the matchups on lock as far as these decks were concerned and really did well in the, not just the bans, but just kind of figuring out what France was going to pick, knew the Lee Sin Zed was coming, and TF Go Hard going to take it versus the Lee Sin Zed. Portugal, your EU Masters champion. All right, and congratulations, Portugal, baby. They have made it to the promised land. And honestly, again, so deserving of this. Either France or Portugal, so deserving of this win. You know, they've worked their asses off to get here. I'm a little bit sad. You know, again, France I've worked a little bit more closely with in the past on things like PCS, Project Conquerors. But nevertheless, again, love me some Portugal. Love me some... Just, oh man, the community in general, man. The community in general is amazing. So really happy to see these players see as much success as they have in this tournament. And even Croatia, you know, people like Andy Desu getting 4th place. That ain't too shabby. That is not too shabby. So excited for this tournament. Excited for the future of Legends of Runeterra. Excited to see what is in store for this game. But as always, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay healthy. Stay positive. I hope shit just works for you. And peace out.